Hello, friends. Welcome to the Thinning of the Veil podcast. I'm your host, Tia Smith, and I'm super duper excited today. I'm here with my friend Andre, all the way from Ukraine over there. What time is it right now over there in Ukraine?
It's 3:30.
So it's 7:30 here. That's how far apart we are in. So finding a time to get this thing done was a little bit crazy. I can tell you though, I've had so many people super excited to hear your testimony and how you're living the gospel in Ukraine and how this is all translating because I'm particularly here in Utah and we live the gospel probably with so much more ease. And I don't know if that's a good thing or not than maybe you do in Ukraine. So we're just excited to have you here. And we don't really actually know each other. We've never met, but for some reason, we got pulled together and I reached out and you were so gracious in allowing me to interview and come on the podcast to kind of give not only how you live the gospel, but also your thinning of the veil experiences and how the gathering of Israel is affecting you as well. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
As you said, my name is Andre, and I'm from Ukraine, living in the very eastern part of Ukraine, which is right next to Russian border, which makes it interesting and fun. Fun.
Yeah, we weren't sure about even like if we were going to be able to get this recorded just because you just never know when there's going to be bombs flying and drones overhead. So I'm just grateful, first of all, that you're safe and that technology is working so that we can kind of hear your voice for sure.
Yeah. And before we started, we had the air raid alert. So at any time, this recording might be interrupted by drones or by piece of power or internet. So if this
Okay.
happens, that's the
We'll
reason for it.
just and we will just pray that all is well, and not only for the podcast but for you. I can't even imagine living like that. So tell us a little bit about like your conversion story and how you got converted to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and how that all happened.
Oh, that's a long story.
That's okay. We have time.
Well, it's been already 26 years this year. This February actually was 26 years since I got myself into the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And my conversion story, as of many people who lived in Ukraine that time, is pretty unique and at the same time is similar to many because we've been converted by the missionaries, most of the members here, and that was my case. And but at that time, I lived with my mom, and we rented a room in a in an apartment. So there was like apartment, three-room apartment, and we rented one room in that apartment. So there was another two families living with us. That's how poor we were. And I don't remember even how we got the money to rent this place. But anyway, we did. And this is the starting point when the Lord has made us live in that apartment when and where missionaries found us. So it was pretty uh, cold winter that year. And I was at school. I don't remember which grade I was, ninth grade, I think. And for this, not summer, for the winter holidays, I went to my grandma because my grandma, my mom's mom, she lived in the village outside of the city, and she was the main source for us to get food because she lived on a little farm. She had some goats and chickens, and every weekend or every break at school, I would go there and help her out, and she would give me eggs, milk, chickens, and other stuff that she would have because my mom was really sick and she couldn't work at that time. And so my grandma was one who kind of provided food for us. And um, uh, So I went to my grandma for winter holidays, winter break at school, and it was like I think 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Usually in Ukraine they do like officially 2 weeks, but then they prolong it for another 2 weeks because of the sickness, because kids get sick, and they say, "All right, stay another 2 weeks at home." So that's what happened with me that year. I stayed at my grandma instead of 2 weeks or a week and a half. I stayed there for 3 weeks. And in these 3 weeks, short 3 weeks, when I was at my grandma, uh, our lives started to change. Because one night, my mom heard a knock on the door. And at that time, she was really sick. She couldn't get up, and she would never get up out of her bed because it was really, really difficult for her, and at sometimes really impossible. And of course, there was another two families living with us. So, and we never expected anyone to come and see us. But at that particular evening, my mom felt really weak and sick and powerless. And her whole body, as her own words, she described it, trembled, and she was ready to die. And for some reason, she started to pray. And as she said, she prayed on my behalf because she was ready to die, and she just asked Heavenly Father to make sure I'm fine. Although we didn't have any religious background, and I have never prayed in my life before that, and neither my mom. And so we never had this experience in our life, prayers and reading of the scriptures. But somehow she, I don't know why and how this, maybe that's something natural within us, and our spirit, calls us to do this.
Sure, yeah.
But she was praying really honestly for the first time in her life. And then she heard this knock on the door. And of course, as I said, she was really sick and she would never get out of the bed. But at that particular evening, she went and opened the door. Uh, and there was two missionaries. There were two young Americans standing there and trying to tell her something. But of course, she wouldn't understand them because the language that they spoke, Russian, it was so broken that it wasn't possible for her to understand back then. But they gave her some pamphlets, and I think they got her contact details. Although, apart from the address, there was no other contact details for us. We didn't have cell phones or any other phones, so it's like
Yeah.
only contact detail is the address. Maybe they didn't get it; they just wrote it down as they saw on the door. And so that was the first introduction of my mom to the church through the missionaries. And when I came back, after 3 weeks being at my grandma, I came home, and in that room that we rented, I found new books, new pamphlets, new things. And I thought, what is that? I flipped through that, and it wasn't familiar at all. And I was really surprised. And and then my mom came home, and she would never ever go out at that time because she was really sick and it was really hard for her. But she was fine, and she came home and she told me that while I was at my grandma, she got baptized into this new church, and there's like this whole bunch of people who are nice and friendly, and they are helping her. And there's like these American missionaries, and I should listen to them. And she tried to kind of persuade me that I should do this. But for me, it was like natural because you joined and you liked it and you love it and you enjoy it and you feel better because of this. For me, it was natural. Yeah, you don't have to persuade me, mom. It's all right. I gladly will meet these missionaries, these people.
How old were you at the time?
I was 14.
You were 14. Okay.
Mhm.
That's an interesting age, my friend. Sounds a little bit like Joseph Smith.
Yep. That was interesting age for me. And I found it was interesting for me back then because they taught us about this young man who was 14 as well. So it was really interesting to relate to the same questions that I would have at that time.
Yeah.
Why are we here? What is going on? How can I, know if God is real? And the example of the prophet Joseph Smith was really relatable to me, and it was easier for me, I think,
Yeah.
to ask the same question and to do the same things as missionaries that we need to ask Heavenly Father, and we need to pray, and we need to listen for His answer. And in that February, I learned that God is real and that He's not somewhere distant from us, but He is there, He's here, He's near, and He wants us to succeed. And He wants us to be happy. And He provided every single way for us to be that, to be happy, and to have joy in our life. And so we went to church, and for the first time, it was really weird for me because everybody at the branch, back then we were renting like a school hall, and it was really strange for me to go there and to see all these people smiling at me and greeting me and hugging me and giving all this love to a random person from the street. So it was really catching and different because in Ukraine back then and even now, people don't really know how to smile at strangers. It's not like appropriate to say hello to strangers on the street.
Okay.
Uh, it's like it's weird. People would look weirdly at you, and it's even weird when you say hello to a person, but it's absolutely inappropriate when somebody will hug you. And could you imagine
Oh,
when everybody would be so friendly, come and hug me and greet me and ask about my name, where I'm from, and other stuff. That was pretty interesting, and it was a wonderful experience. But back then and recently, I understood that this is one of the biggest inheritance that my mom left me.
so your mom has played a huge part and role, obviously, in a lot of things in your life. Your What was your life before you found the church, and how was it different once you accepted the gospel and started learning about Jesus Christ and all of the things that he has done for each one of us, honestly? So, what is that? Just tell me what the difference was, the difference that you saw.
Well, the first difference uh, that was really distinct, and that at school, before I got baptized and learned about the gospel, I didn't really want to learn anything. I would just go to school, hang out with the friends, and I wouldn't learn anything. I would get like below average grades, and that was my life. And I was, doing all right as I was thinking. But then after I got baptized, for some reason, something has changed right away. And I decided, oh well, I better learn. I better, understand this. And this is first very distinct thing that I saw. Another one is my mom, as I said, she was really sick and she didn't know what it is with her. Then she went to many doctors, but because the system here is really corrupt. Although the medicine is
Uh,
free,
yeah.
the doctors would, pay attention to you only when you bring something to them, like
Uh,
chocolates, alcohol, or money. You have to bring something, or other way they wouldn't, even look at you. And that was the case with my mom. She would go there and she didn't have anything to give to the doctors, so they wouldn't like pay attention to her tests and everything. But with the great wisdom of the Lord, in the branch where we got baptized, there was a man whose son was diabetic from his birth. And this man quit his job to learn everything possible that he could about the diabetes. And my mom had diabetes, but she didn't know how to live with that. And she was just slowly dying. And this man said, all right, I'm this man, I have this son, I have experimented on him many times and many different things I tried on my son. Uh, and that's absolutely different from what doctors do. If you want, I can teach you and I can experiment on you as well to see how this works on the adults. And of course, she didn't have any other choice but to agree because he was the only one who said that he will help. And so my mom's health improved dramatically. Like after a week, he's being with her and helping her and teaching her how to live with that sickness. She could go out, she could enjoy herself, she could, eat whatever or whenever she wants. And that was another drastic change. So the change that I saw was my worldly eyes were worldly. I'm starting to have new look at school. My mom's health improve, but there was some other changes, like spiritual changes, when my spirit were so hungry for knowledge about about the gospel and about like all the thing that is spiritual and how this works and what part I have in it. And it was interesting to find out that I actually here for a reason. I'm here to fulfill a specific mission on this earth. It's not just coincidence. And starting from that point, gradually, I learned to see God's hand in my life every day. And by this time, right now, it's pretty easy for me to see how He operates in my life. Although there is still some stuff that I don't understand, and I don't think I will understand them soon, but I trust in the Lord, and I know that whatever happening in my life is happening for a reason and leads me to a specific point in my life where I need to be with people that I need to be.
Do you think that you see God's hand in your life more now just because there's so much opposition right now around you? There's so much, and I guess explain a little bit to our listeners what your life is like on a daily basis and how God is literally in the details of your life every single day. Because I think most of us who sit on the other side of the globe in relative peace, we cannot understand what you're living through and what you're going through. But also, I also feel like you also see God in the extreme trials and opposition that we are gifted with. I would say more so than if our life was easy. So I guess explain a little bit about how you live now and how you feel like God is leading you on a daily basis.
For the past 3 years, Ukraine has been at war with Russia. And of course, there's different opinions who is wrong and who's right, and different politicians who are speculating on that. But at the end of the day, it's just regular people who are suffering from it. And we don't care who's right or who's wrong. We care that our loved ones would be saved,
Yeah.
protected, but it's not the case right now for Ukrainians here. So it's something unusual that we have in our life, but and terrible, but at the same time, I got used to that. There is sirens on the street, and at first, first half year, it was really scary because the sirens, air raid alert
I'm
means that
sure.
something is flying over your head and you have to go and hide somewhere underground. But now it became so, mm,
Like
uh,
second nature. It's just your normal day.
yeah, it's become like a norm, a new norm
Yeah.
for us. Like there is sirens, it's okay. There is like drones flying, that's all right. We got used to that and hope that they won't drop bomb on our head or somewhere on the house where people are still living. So it's kind of hard, and especially right now, Ukrainian government tries to draft men into the army, and they have these manhunters who are hunting men on the street, just pulling them from the public transportation, from their cars, just walking men on the street, putting them in their buses and driving them to the so-called learning fields where they, try to, in 1 month, try to make them soldiers,
Warriors. Yeah. Yeah.
warriors.
Yeah.
So that's another stress for men in Ukraine and for their wives or their mothers, their sisters. So people are living under distress continually, and that's been weird. And right now, as I said, it's new normal for us. So now we kind of adjusted to this kind of life. And I'm stressed about time when the war will end, because that's absolutely something new will come and the country after the war. So
Yeah.
that's my thoughts. And when the war started, um, I decided that I have some resources to help others, because we are taught that we need to have like this food storage, and we had so I lived in an apartment and my mom lived in a house, and my mom, when she lived in that apartment where I lived, she built a food storage, pretty big one. And then when she moved to her house, she built another food storage there. And I would tell her, Mom, why do we need this food storage in my apartment and in your house? Let's move everything at one place. She's like, no, let's, keep it there. And then when the war started, it was like such a revelation that this is why your mom has built this food storage, so you could help someone else. And fair enough, at the first day or second day, or I don't know, at the beginning of the war, I had this inspiration that I need to take this food, divide it, and bring it to the neighbors, to the elderly neighbors in my apartment building. And that's what I did, and that's when I decided to record it on my Instagram. I have never used Instagram like that. I just posted some pictures, some weird pictures. That's it. But I decided to post this one, like telling people that I have this food storage and I'm so blessed because we followed the prophet, and that's what I'm doing with that. And I had I had everything in there: toilet paper, food, canned food, grains, and even some medications and vitamins. So I brought this food to my neighbors, and then that's when people started to contact me and say, "Hey, we wanna, help. We want to donate. If you know how to get food, we want to, do it through you." And that was amazing hand of the Lord, when so many people who didn't know me, people. I mean, how could you trust a random man from Ukraine who's telling you that he will take your money and spend it on the food for others? I mean, being in the war country.
Yeah.
But fair enough, the hearts were touched and the people trusted. And that's when the biggest work of my life happened at that moment. And there were so many hands, so many moments when I saw the hand of God. For example, many times. So I had my driver, and we would load the car with the exact amount of food that we need to deliver. So we had this group of people that would say, hey, we have like 30 people here, 30 families here. And so we would load 30 packages of food, bags with everything, fruits, vegetables, grains, whatever we could find, and deliver there. But for some reason, sometimes, not every time, but sometimes I would see that we have one left. It's like, what? And I would ask, hey, did everyone get the food? And like, yeah, we got everything. But we would take that one. It's like, no, that's not for you. The Lord has a plan for it.
Mm.
And then every time when I had this spare package of food, there was someone on our road. Like one time, there was like this lady coming out of the store and she was crying. And she would like, I would ask my driver to stop and see what's going on. So get out of the car and ask, hey, what's going on? She's like, I went to the store to buy the bread and they don't have any. They don't have anything at this store. And I said, guess what? We have the bread, we have the milk, we have the everything in there, fruits and vegetables, just for you. And there's like there's been so many examples like that when we had just one left, and I would see someone, and that's the person who needed it. So
It's like
it's a
the Lord multiplying your efforts, like the fishes and the loaves. He's multiplying what you have and using you to bless his other children's lives in miraculous ways, for sure.
and this is the most amazing feelings when you understand that this is the Lord working through you for his children. And that's when I understood that he has love, the same love for everyone. Doesn't care what nationality or what political views you have. He still loves this person the same way he loves you. And that taught me as well that I need to learn to do the same.
Yeah. Huge lesson. So how I know that you served a mission what because you're speaking English, right? And I believe that your mission was in preparation so that you could come back and be this servant of the master, back in Ukraine, and you can unite kind of both worlds because you speak English. So tell us a little bit about your mission and how that all came about and why you even decided to go on a mission because you didn't have to go on a mission, but for some reason you decided to go. So how did that all kind of lead up to where you are now in your life?
Since the first moment when I was introduced to the missionaries, there was sister missionaries who taught my mom, and then they would come and teach me along with my mom. And I saw their dedication to the work and specifically to me. Like they were dedicated to teach me. They were here to love me and to help me understand the gospel. And at that moment, I decided that if I would ever have the chance to serve the mission, I want to be like these missionaries and I want to be a missionary. And fair enough, after I don't remember how long, but well, I went on my mission in 2004. That's like after 5 years being a member. But before that, I went on a so-called mini mission. So it was in our mission when there was shortage of missionaries. Mission president would ask young men to join the real missionary, the full-time missionary, and that's what they called mini mission. And you would go there for like I think for a transfer for 6 weeks. And I had this amazing companion, Elder Campbell, and
Oh, wait a second. That's my maiden name is Campbell.
wow,
That's super interesting. Campbells are awesome, I have to tell you.
because they're from Scotland.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's so funny. I didn't know we had that connection. That's
So
cool.
Elder Campbell he would, as all missionaries, all foreign missionaries would have to learn the language. They have this specific time and they're scheduled to sit down and study the language. And he would tell me, Andre, you gotta learn the language, English, with me. I'm here and I'll teach you because one day you go on a mission and you would need the language skills. It's like, no, I don't like this. I don't love it. I even hate this time because I don't have to learn the language. I'm in Ukraine, speaking Russian. Everyone speaks my language here. So stop bothering me. And he would always, be so kind and tell me that I have to learn it. And I would always reject it, always. And he would tell me, one day you will go there, and you would have to know the language. Like, no, you are silly. You don't know anything. And then when I sent my papers, I specifically told, like in the papers, missionary papers, I think you could specify if you want to go abroad or stay in your country. And I said, I want to stay in my country because, I mean, it's comfortable here. I don't have to go anywhere and know the language. I don't have to spend time to learn the language. But when I got my letter from the church headquarters, and I found out that they sending me to serve in Scotland. It was like, oh, yep, that was Elder Campbell.
Elder Campbell knew.
He
What was
knew.
his what was his name, by the way? I we may be related. Do you
I
remember
don't
his
remember.
first name?
Uh-uh.
Okay.
I don't remember.
Well, all the Campbells are cool. I'm just gonna say that. So we talked about it before. I mean, I love Scotland to death, and the fact that
Oh,
you went there.
his name was Keith.
Keith. Okay. Have to look him up. I'm sure. I mean, we're all related, but it'd be cool if we were related. So you went on this mission to Scotland. Tell me a little bit though about what the church was looking like in Ukraine at the time. Like how many members did you have when you were going on your mission? Um, what did your normal church activity worshiping look like?
I think it was the same because when I went to Scotland, it was kind of the same as back home. The
Okay.
service and everything, the people, friendly people, nice people who would smile at you and greet you, even though they don't understand you. Now it's a new thing for me. They don't understand me, and they still love you and they still, want to be around you. And back home, it was the church was growing and we had baptisms and we had missionaries, whole bunch of missionaries, and we had like the church was growing. And I think there was even the stake organized in Kiev, but I'm not sure when.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but there was no temple in Kiev back then. The temple was dedicated in 2010, and I left on my mission 2004.
Wow.
And I went to the Preston MTC in England. And it was pretty strange because I didn't know the language. And I thought that they would send me somewhere where they teach you first and then they send you on a mission. But they sent me right away to that place. And it was pretty strange. First of all, I got lost at the airport because I couldn't explain to anyone when I arrived to the Heathrow, London. It's
Yeah.
like, what do I do next? I have to change planes. And that was my first time flying on the plane. And it was pretty scary
Yeah.
because I didn't know what to do, where to go, how to ask for help. So the police saw it and they stopped me and they asked for my papers, my tickets, and they checked my stuff and then they sent me on my plane. And when I arrived, there was no one waiting for me. So I was like, wow, what do I do now?
No.
I was just scared and alone, didn't know what to do. But then the senior couple came and picked me up, and I recognized them because they had these badges, missionary
Yeah.
badges.
Yeah.
It's easy
Yeah.
for me.
That's super cool. I feel like, well, it's probably the experience of most missionaries, especially if they're not speaking their, native language to go and it's a new place, new things. But the thing that you mentioned before was that the gospel was the same. the people were the same. And I love that thread that anywhere you go in the world, you and I are on completely different parts of the world, but we have the same beliefs. We know and understand the gospel, and it is no different for you worshiping in Ukraine and me worshiping in Utah. You're, I mean, obviously, it's a little bit more complicated right now, but I love that idea that God loves people all over the world and is aware of their plight and of their circumstances. So, do you feel like the mission then helped prepare you then for what you are now being called to do?
Absolutely. Because without the mission, I wouldn't have the language skills and people skills, of course. And yeah, absolutely. The mission was one of the steps that prepared me for life today.
So, the Lord kind of just has been leading you step by step, minute by minute, the next thing that needs to be done and the next thing that needs to be done. How did the mission affect your mom? How did that kind of help her in her own testimony?
I don't know if it helped her. Maybe it didn't because
Oh,
she was left by herself.
okay.
Everybody kind of forgot about her after a while. Like all the members kind of didn't, pay as much attention as she would expect. So it was her expectations against what people did. And she was just regular member, although she was suffering a lot because she was by herself. It was hard for her. And just recently I found this letters, whole bunch of box of letters that I sent to her and that she sent to me. I thought I would throw them away, but for some reason I brought them back home.
Wow. That's a gift though, right now, I'm sure,
Yeah,
to have read
absolutely.
those. So tell me a little bit, and I think that's important that you mention that because we don't know and understand people's experiences as individuals. And it's always, we need to be careful that we're always watching out for our members. We're watching out for our friends who might be suffering and just be aware of that. I think sometimes we can get so hyper aware of what's going on in our lives that we don't pay attention to those who are suffering outside of our influence or what we think. So but I believe that God will always, if you're completely asking, that He will lead you to those people who need help on both sides of the veil, right? And I feel like that your mom has had kind of a huge impact on you in that way. So tell us a little bit about your mom and what has recently happened that led up to this thinning of the veil experience.
So my mom is the best mom in the world. And with a very little uh, means, she has blessed my life in so many ways. She couldn't provide me with nice stuff and with nice life, but she was really honest. And that's when I learned that honesty is one of the greatest virtues that we can possess. Whatever is happening, whatever is going on in your life, just honesty will, you know, straight things, straight things, and make probably life easier if you wouldn't, do other things. And she was the example for me, and I just love to be around her. And sometimes she would act weird and funny, and I love that. And one time she said, "Hey, you have to install a camera in my room, in my living room." It's like, why do I need a camera? So if something happens to me and if I don't pick up the phone, you would uh, check the camera and see if I'm all right. It's like, all right, all right. And sometimes I would just check on her without her knowing. And she was dancing on herself, by herself there, or speaking with her dog, just being so lively. And another thing that I love about her, that her probably last year of her life, she taught me that we need to love life that we have. She was suffering from diabetes, and because of that, her organs would start to work improperly or not how they're supposed to work. And so she had her last 3 months of her life, she would have to do dialysis. And that's one of the things that she was afraid. The dialysis, it's like you don't have life with that. You have to build your life around hospital because 3 times a week for 3 hours you have to spend there with that procedure. And I would think that, you would lose hope and you would lose like interest for life. I would if I would have
Yeah,
to be tied to the hospital 3 weeks a day for 3 hours. I mean, 3 times a week.
right. Yeah.
But she was so excited about life. She passed her driving tests. She got her driving license. She started this small business, a little cafeteria that works now, and one of main incomes for me right now. So she would, teach me that whatever circumstances, you gotta love your life and uh, and be grateful for what you have and concentrate your attention on things you have and blessings that you have been blessed with instead of thinking of things that you don't have and things you're lacking. And so that was one of the best experiences and lessons that I learned from my mom, that whatever circumstances or pains you go through, you still have to be grateful for things that you have and the health that you have. And there's so many things that you learn,
Yeah.
whatever age you are. So, and I think in our time, people, when they cross certain age, they're like, all right, that's not for me. I'm not learning anything new. It's for younger people, but
Yeah.
it's not. It's
No.
like you can learn up until the last day of your life.
Yeah. Well, you
The,
should be, right? And that's part of learning how to become like God is he's constantly learning and growing and well, I mean, I'm sure he has all knowledge, but that's for us to start to understand. And I love your example about your mom. I understand getting medically tired. I also have now two diseases that just occupy a lot of my time and a lot of my headspace. And I love your reminder to be grateful and to see those things that I do have instead of worrying about all the days either that I'm not feeling good or that I have to go to the doctors or that the medicines I'm having to take. So I appreciate, I'm always going to remember your mom for that because it was a good lesson that I actually needed to hear today. So tell me a little bit about how your relationship with your mom and I don't you mentioned something about the temple being built. Was that a regular part of your life? Was that a regular part of your mom's life? How often were you able to even get there?
it was pretty common for us to go to the temple at least every 2 months. Uh,
Okay. And
that
how
would
does that work when you go there? Because I mean, we're taking this from a point of view where I literally have a temple 5 minutes away, right? So tell me about what it was for you and your mom to go to the temple, what the experience was, how long did it take to get there, what kind of sacrifice was it to get to the temple in Kiev?
well, first, before the temple was built in Kiev, there was the nearest temple was in Freiburg, Germany. And every time when people would come from that temple trip, it would take them 24 hours to go there and 24 hours to come back, and they would spend a week there because the temple would have guest house, I think. That's how I call it. And I was dreaming to go there because I heard all these nice stories from people who came from there. It's like, what is the temple? I need to know. I need to go there. And then when we've been members for a year or even more, we started to collect money. I was working and my mom was working. So we collected enough money to send my mom
Mm.
to that first temple trip. And that was pretty significant for her. And when she came, she would, tell me something that she could, and it would make me even more excited because now I want to go, but we didn't have means to go together or to send me another trip. So I went through the temple for the first time when I went on my mission, and I didn't understand anything there because it was in English. It's like, all right, okay, you do this and you do this. So but then, uh, they built temple in Kiev, and that was amazing. And we went there for the temple dedication when President Monson came and dedicated the temple, and we were ones who were blessed to go and be in the temple. We were in the celestial room. There is two celestial rooms, so we were in one of them. And President Monson was dedicating in the no, not celestial room, sorry, ceiling room, but
Yeah.
he was in celestial room. Uh, and that was such a wonderful experience. And my mom, she was there in the crowd, standing when as prophet would walk to the temple for the dedication, and he would go and smile, President Monson,
Yeah.
and I think he would joke about something, and then passed. He walked past by my mom, and she was somewhere in the crowd, not at the first line. And then he stopped, came back, and looked at my mom, and then the crowd would, separate, and he would walk and to her and shake her hand and tell her something, and then he would look at her uh, hand with her wedding ring, and he would, kind of kindly tap her hand and say something. Of course, she didn't understand, but that was one of the memorable experiences for her. And from that time, I would say every 2 months, maybe every 3 months, we would go to the temple. And every time it would have to be either me or my mom because we had the dog. My mom had a dog, and I would have to stay with the dog when she's out. And when I'm out, she would
Yeah.
obviously with the dog. So we never get to be there together. That's strange.
Yeah. Wow.
I think one time we were together. Yeah, one time when we left the dog with somebody else, and this girl was scared of the dog, and she didn't feed him. So it was a disaster.
But you made it to the temple with your mom. So
Yeah, yeah, we did. And at that time, she was married to her new husband, who was not a member of the church, and that's why we couldn't be sealed. Uh, because she hoped that this guy would join the church and go through the temple. It didn't happen, but anyway. So, and every other time it was either me or my mom, and we live in Kharkov, and Kharkov is like uh, on the train. If you take the train, it's like 5 hours on the train, day train, or 8 hours on the night train, and it's like 5 hours drive on a car. So it's not that far, but still, it's not near
it's
to
not
us.
that far. That's awesome. 5 hours away isn't that far. Wow, that's incredible. And I'm assuming that it stayed pretty busy, that temple in Kiev, because people would come probably from Russia and other, closer places for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So Russia, Kazakhstan, all the Asia,
Uh-huh.
the post-Soviet Union countries would come to the temple in Kiev. And the temple in Kiev is the first temple that built on the post-Soviet post-Soviet Union area. So there was no other temples on that area, and that was pretty incredible. We had I was even participating in the uh, what they call it celebration cultural thing.
Cultural, yeah, yeah. Cultural
Uh,
celebration.
when before they opened the temple, before they
Yes.
temple, that big concert. So that was pretty interesting as well. Yeah, so that was uh, me and the temple and my mom.
How did you feel about temple and family history work back, a while ago? Was it a huge part of your life or not a huge part of your life? How did you feel about it?
It wasn't a part of my life at all. I didn't know how to do. I didn't know why. I know when I went to the temple, I would take random card that they would give me. It was a random person. I would go through the temple, do the work for this random person for me, and be done with that. But my mom, she, on the other hand, she did the research and she was looking for her ancestors from her mom's side.
Because you guys are the only members in your family at this
Yeah.
point, right? Just you
Mhm.
and your mom.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me about what happened with your mom and how it kind of led to this dream that you had.
Yeah. So my mom passed on February 16th last year, and it was really unexpected. And on the February 12th, her dog passed away. So on Monday, her dog passed away, and she was broken for it. She called him her son, and she called me his brother. And she would call me brother, not the son. She would call me brother because I was related to the dog. That's
It
how
makes
she loved the
complete
dog.
sense.
That's how she loved the dog. And I would drive her back and forth to the hospital. And one day on the February 15th, she was like, "Oh, could you please stay with me?" Like, "Mom, I really want to go home and sleep in my bed." She's like, "I don't feel really well emotionally." And of course, I stayed. And I'm so glad that I did because that was the last night that I could spend with my mom. Because the next day we would drive and we would go to the veterinary clinic where Ephraim passed to drop off his medications because we didn't need them and we just donated them to the clinic. So she would go there, and then I would drive her to the dialysis center for her normal procedure. And when I came to pick her up, there was like ambulances and people running around, and I thought, well, somebody is suffering there. I wouldn't think it's my mom, of course. And I would call her and she wouldn't pick up. And but that's normal because she's hooked to those machines
Yeah.
that do the stuff with blood. And I realized that the ambulances is for her when everybody already left, and it's been far due time for her to come out of this room, but she didn't come out. And so I tried to find out what's going on at the personnel, and they wouldn't speak to me. They were really busy running around. And it happened that they said that she just stopped breathing. Uh, and at the time, before that, when I realized that she has some problems there, and that's not the first time she has something like that. And every time I would pray and ask Heavenly Father to help her and to help me understand. And the next minute, I see that she's all right and she's kind of coming to her senses, but not this time. So I went to the bathroom in that uh, clinic, and I knelt down because that's what I knew to do. And I tried to pray, and I prayed, and I asked Heavenly Father to make sure she doesn't suffer there, because I didn't know what's going on and that she won't walk out of that room. And yeah, so she passed in that hospital, in that clinic, and it was hard and unexpected. And I was really broken because I didn't know how to live without her, because all my life was centered around her, driving her to places, taking care of her, buying stuff for her, and yeah, and yeah, that was really hard. That was really hard because that was the first time I lost someone who was really close. Uh,
Pretty painful. Yeah. Um, how did, how did you, what were the next steps that you kind of took after your mom passed? What were you, because you said you didn't really know how to live. Your whole life was centered around your mom. So what started happening, I guess, after she passed? What did you see God's hand in your life after that period of time?
the grief is so uh, random and
Yeah.
unpredictable, and it just gets you at times when you don't expect it. And for me, the first desire that I had is to go to the temple after her death, and to seal her to my father, to her first husband, and to be sealed with them. But I was told that I have to wait for a month for this to be done. So I waited for a month, and I prepared the paperwork, and I went there. And that was really emotionally hard when the sealer did the sealing, and he would pronounce the names of my parents. That was pretty difficult for me to bear. I don't know why, so emotional. And then it was really sweet to feel the love of Heavenly Father when I was sealed to them. And to feel that I'm a part of that eternal family now. So that was pretty amazing to experience.
I think that's one of my favorite doctrines of the gospel is that because my father has passed and I've had children pass, and you're right, that grief is overwhelming and it's completely random. And you can't quite put a finger on what the day is going to be like because each day is kind of different. But the beautiful part of that doctrine is that just because they've passed to a different, on the other side of the veil, because Jesus Christ did what he did, it means that you're not fully separated from them, and that through the temple covenants and ordinances that you will be with your mother again, and I will be with my father again and my children again, and that this life that creates all of these different kinds of emotions is also beautiful in that sense that everything will be okay in the end, and that our hearts will be healed, and that we don't lose them forever. That's one of my most favoriteest doctrines about the gospel of Jesus Christ, that there is life beyond, and they are hyper aware of us, and they know what we're doing, they know what we're involved in, and they're still influencing our lives in so many ways. So tell me a little bit about this experience, I guess, that you would have, the dream that you had. Tell me a little bit about that.
So every time that I went to the temple after my mom's passing, I would see her in my dreams. And first time when I went, I hoped to have some kind of experience with that. And I did. And I thought that that's it. That's enough for you. But then every time I would go there, I would have this experience with my mom in my dreams. And the last time I went there, it was pretty incredible and interesting, the dream that I had. And it was so realistic. So I was walking on that street in my city that I walk many times, and I would just go minding my business, and I would see my mom driving on a scooter with the dog sitting on that scooter.
Of course, with the dog. Your brother. Of course, with your brother.
And I would see her and I would call her, Mom, Mom. But she wouldn't hear me and she would just drive past by me. And then I see her making a U-turn and driving for towards me. And I would think, well, that's my time to call her again. So I would call her, Mom, Mom. But she didn't hear me. And she was so caught up in the moment on that scooter, just, so blissfully driving with her eyes closed, her hair is blown by the wind. So it's like slow motion for me. And I was like, all right. And I would just continue walking without being offended that she didn't see me. And I thought to myself, well, that's all right, because I'm going to somewhere to prepare for a big family gathering. And when I woke up, it was something amazing. The feeling that I had, the whole body, every cell of my body was filled with some kind of light. And I have never experienced that before. Uh, but one thing you should know that we don't have a big family, just me and my mom. That's it. There is nobody else. Yes, I have aunts and nephews and cousins somewhere, but it's like we don't have big family gatherings ever. Uh, and at that point, I understood that the big family gathering is not on this side, but on the other side. And that's when I had this another experience with the spirit of Elijah, who confirmed to me that I need to do my family history work and to find those who need to be found. And that's when I felt this, that my heart is drawn to the hearts of my fathers. And I really have this desire to search and to look and to understand more and to find them. And for the first time in my life, I went and did first steps to do that, to find about my grandma and my grandpa from my father's line, because my mom did her side and my father's side nobody did, because it's me who should be doing that, but I
Yeah.
never did. So I was doing that, and I was pretty amazed at some of the thing that is happening right now. And there is something else significant happened. I was going through the pictures at my old apartment, which is now as a storage room for all the old stuff. And I was going through the pictures. I was looking for a particular picture that I needed, nothing related to family history. And I found an old letter addressed to my mom from her biological dad, my biological granddad. So my grandma, when she was a student, she was studying archaeology, not archaeology, building or something. She was studying at the university in St. Petersburg, and she met this guy from Afghanistan, and they had romance, and she got pregnant. and the father was this guy from Afghanistan, and she told her, "You can marry me, and you can be my second wife in Afghanistan, and you will have everything, and my child will have everything." But being being proud Soviet Union woman, she's like,
Yeah.
"No way, I'm being a second wife." So they separated their ways, and she met another guy who married her while she was pregnant with my mom. And this guy, her husband, her new husband, her first husband, he knew that she's pregnant, and I found some pictures where they're wedding pictures where my biological granddad was right there at their wedding. So my granddad and my biological granddad, they knew each other, and the not biological granddad was fully aware of
The
my
situation.
so, and he was right with that, and he loved my mom like his own daughter, and he would, do everything for her. But I found this letter from my biological granddad to my mom.
Oh,
And
wow.
I don't know. I hope my mom uh, knew about this letter and she read this letter because it was there unopened. Maybe it was just on the open space for me to find it. But there was a picture of my mom when she was just a baby, few months, few days old, and a picture of my grandma and my biological granddad in St. Petersburg. And that was a letter from a dad to his daughter. And first of all, that's a significant artifact in my family history. But second of all, it felt like in a way like a patriarchal blessing from the dad to his daughter. And it was written in on a Russian broken language because obviously Russian wasn't his first language,
Yeah.
but I couldn't. And then there was that picture of my mom as a baby. Uh, it's like has rootings on Arabic language, which I don't understand, unfortunately. So I'd have to find someone who reads Arabic language. But that was another thing that I found. And I think that I need to find out more about my biological granddad and make sure that the work in the temple is done for him as well. And I think that's a part of this big family gathering that I thought about in my dream when I was at the temple.
It is no wonder, my friend, that you are this significant hinge point in your family because you are the only one that has the ability to save your family. You know, you're the only member of your family, and I mean, no pressure, but I believe that it's the blessings of your ancestors that brought you to a place to have those missionaries knock on that door. It was the power of their prayers that brought you to this point. And there's a temple now that is close to you. And although it's probably pretty difficult right now to get to that temple, I cannot even imagine the amount of prayers that are offered on your behalf that you will find these stories and create this big, huge gathering that's going on the other side of the veil. I do not doubt for a second that you have so many ancestors and it's the convergence of so many cultures. Did you even know that you're Arabic at all? Did you
Yeah,
know that? You did know that.
that was the open thing for my mom and for me as well.
Good. So there's a lot of I don't I can't even imagine all the intersections, all the thin threads, right? That God just weaved into your life so that you sit here now bearing testimony of the importance of the gathering. And through these thinning of the veil experiences, that you actually make it to the temple. Tell me a little bit about how temple right now, to get to the temple, what happens. You were telling me before when we were talking before we were recording about how you have to go through checkpoints and all of those types of things. Tell us about the sacrifice that it takes for you to get to the temple.
So because of the war, the manhunters, the military enlistment officers, they making these checkpoints or block posts on the road where they check your papers, and if you don't have, appropriate papers, which you don't have, uh, they will from there they would drag you and put you in the bus and drive you to the learning fields where you in 1 month supposed to become a warrior, and then they will send you to the front lines. Of course, I don't want that for myself, and I never wanted to be any kind of military guy. But that was one of the biggest obstacles on the way to the temple right now. And the last time when I went to the temple, that was in the beginning of January. I told everyone on the Instagram, "Hey guys, I'm planning to go to the temple." And they're like, "No, no, you should sit this one out." It's like, I know, but I need to go to the temple. And everybody, like, there was not a single person who would say, "Sure, go to the temple. That would be good for you." Many, many thousands of people would say, "Stay home. Don't go anywhere." But I had to, and I went to the temple, and people were praying and fasting about this trip. And on that trip, I didn't have a single blog post. And that's something absolutely impossible. Impossible in our times to drive from one part of the country to another without being checked on at least one or two or three blog posts, because they are standing on every like big intersections. But back then there was not a single blog post for me, not that way, not the way back home. So that was a great blessing for me, an answer to many, many prayers. But when you go to the temple, because of the war and because of the air raid alerts, the temple doesn't operate like usual temples. So it's not like right now, it's not opened. It only operates when groups of people are coming for a week or for a few days. There's a guest house where they can stay. If there is enough people, then the temple works and does the work, because you have to have enough temple workers and enough patrons.
Yeah.
That's why we go like big groups, like Stake goes there. And when I say Stake, it's like up to 50 people that go to the temple. That's how small our Stake right now is. And even when you're in the temple, if there is a air raid alert, you have to stop where you are and go to the basement of the temple for the security measures and safety measures. So it's pretty difficult right now to do this work, because you could spend at the basement 10 minutes or you can spend there 3 hours. You don't know how
You
long
don't know.
the air raid alert would be. So that's another obstacle that saints in Ukraine right now are facing because of the war. It's not easy.
How can we over like how can we help the saints in Ukraine? Like, is there something that we can pray for? Is there something that we can, do for you in your wanting to get to the temple?
As I learned in January, that the prayers and the fast have extreme power over over all man-made obstacles. And when you have desire to do the work, and when you have this goal to do something for the Lord, I know that He will remove all the dangerous and terrible obstacles. And although you probably would have some kind of concern, I did.
Yeah.
I was afraid to go there.
Yeah.
Uh, Not as afraid as I would be in other circumstances, but I was kind of afraid. But I know that the Lord removed all of that obstacles, so I could have that experience and to know that it's time for me to get uh, into the gathering of Israel on the other side and on this side whenever I can.
I believe you have chariots of angels protecting you to and from and even there. Uh, Obviously for good reason, but that's been the promise by Elder Holland is that we have chariots of angels surrounding us. And the scriptures say every time we leave the temple, we leave armed with his power and with angels around us. And I can't imagine it that would be more telling than in your situation where it literally could cost you your life to get to the temple to save your ancestors. And I do not hesitate to even think that they are protecting you every step of the way. Tell us a little bit about what your calling is and how you attend church. How does the church run right now with the war going on?
I have three callings, two callings. I'm a primary teacher in my branch. I'm on the high stake council. That's how we
Okay.
call it.
Yeah.
And knows that I'm doing.
Are you a temple worker?
I'm temple worker, yes.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you call that in English, but I'm responsible for my branch for the cleaning and organizing the cleanings
Oh,
and
okay.
eyes and everything.
So that's four callings.
More callings, my
So
goodness.
those of us who are over here that have one calling and we're complaining about it, maybe we shouldn't complain anymore about it. I'm just so amazed at the way that you live the gospel and that you're continually, because you have every reason not to live the gospel right now, where you're not meeting how you used to meet, right? But you're still doing your callings and you're still getting to the temple and you're still trying to gather Israel. And on both sides, are you kind of doing missionary work in your everyday life for those on trying to still be a missionary?
Of course, that's one of the callings I would never quit because, I mean, we as members are have entered into the covenant to do that.
So
And
when you go and deliver food, because that's what you're doing right now, um, are you able to bear testimony at all about the Savior or anything? Do they ask you about the gospel at all or ask you even about God? Because I can imagine people over there right now are struggling with kind of the war. And I feel like when you go through those situations, sometimes God can seem so far away, no matter whatever form you believe God exists in.
sometimes I have opportunity to share my testimony, not every time. The last time when I had this chance, I was like this lady, older lady, and she would be so grateful for the food that we brought and for the flowers. It's like, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I would stop her and tell her it's not me that you should be thanking for, thanking to. It's your Heavenly Father. He's like, yes, yes, thanks to him as well. And so
Yeah.
every time when I have this opportunity to talk about God and Christ, I use it, and that's something sacred and such a amazing thing when we are able to share something that brought us light, brought us happiness, even in these times, even in the times of war, times of terrible things that is happening around us. The gospel still brings us peace and hope. And I think because of the gospel, all the 3 years I was able to live and to kind of operate normally and to help others. Because without the gospel, I would probably be depressed and hiding somewhere, not having hope, not having understanding that we're here and God has like a plan and purpose for us here in this time and in these particular circumstances. He doesn't want us to hide or to be afraid. Yes, he wants us to be careful, but
Yeah.
he wants as well to be his children who he can trust and he could bless others through us. So that's been one of the moving powers that helped me to survive these 3 years of war.
Um, how is your testimony in the gathering increased, probably even more so with the war and also with your thinning of the veil experience where your mom, where you were given a distinct message from your mom on the other side of the veil. How has that changed, and has it changed anything? And your understanding of Christ and how all of this gathering pulls us all together. I mean, you're sitting on that side of the world and I'm sitting on this side of the world, and we're both just we have a testimony of God and the Savior and the gathering of Israel and how important that is to us in our, separate spheres, but we're all just like doing this together. It's like you and I are family. We're gospel family pulling in the middle of opposition, and we're experiencing these great miracles.
As I said before, like a year ago or maybe a couple of years ago, I didn't have any testimony about the gathering and about the people on the other side. I didn't have any thought about them or anything. And I believe that every obstacle that we go through, every pain that we go through, is making us more holier, making us more Christ-like, because we know that Christ went through such a terrible, painful experiences in his life. And I believe that only through this, not only, but as well, we have to have this pain and suffering. And through this pain and suffering, we can learn, we can choose to learn and choose the glory that we want to learn from. And we want to, and we can understand more because of the pain that we went through. And for me, as I said, I didn't have any whatsoever uh, mm, testimony about the gathering and
Yeah.
about people on the other side. But after my mom passed, it's like, well, you have to know.
Bro, yeah. It changes your perspective, right?
Yeah, you gotta now think about the other part of the world, the other part of the Israel that is behind the veil. And gradually, not at the same time, not right away, but gradually, going through grief and through understanding and pain, I was kind of convinced that this is what I need to do. And I kind of tried. And I had sometimes I would have the most amazing, not expressions, like these feelings that would amaze me. For example, at the stake conference, we had stake family work specialist, whatever you call that in English, the person who is responsible for family history. She would talk and she would teach people about family history. And for me, I never felt that before. The past year was experience that I never had before. And I had this, like physically, I had this light um, from this talk. I don't know how to explain that, but that was like the most important for me. The thing that I remember that, burned, I had this burning in my heart and in my mind telling me, you gotta get to the family history. You gotta know, you gotta search. And then I would contact this person and say, hey, I had this experience. Like, yeah, that's the spirit of Elijah. But then it just, gradually burned out and I forgot about this. And I'm so grateful and humbled how the Lord is so patient with us. And He tries and tries and tries to help us understand what is important. And so I had this another experience at the temple when the veil was so thin and I was able to see my mom enjoying her life there. And I was all right with her not paying attention to me because somehow I knew that I'm here on the other side of the veil to prepare for the big family gathering. And that's another reminder. And I hope I will still have this fire and do the work while it lasts and will be able to find some of my relatives. So that's the testimony that I gained because of that. And that's happened in the course of this past year after my mom's passing.
I believe that that is the beginning of your thinning of the veil experiences. I 100% believe that you will get more. Um, and I also believe that they're not going to leave you alone. So the minute you start like thinking, oh, I don't need to do family history, I promise you there will be some way that they will say, oh no, my son, oh no, you have got to singularly focus on this. We need your help because they cannot do what they want to do unless they have the ordinances and covenants that we have access to. And we are the only ones that can do that for them. So I'm sure this is just the beginning of your wonderful, unique experience in the gospel of Jesus Christ. And I'm so grateful that you were willing to come and share that, your testimony with us, your thinning of the veil experiences, the way that you are sacrificially living the gospel of Jesus Christ in Ukraine right now. Most of us cannot fathom that, but I appreciate that you're an example to us all. Honestly, I can't even imagine bombs flying over my head and all of the things that you're experiencing, and yet you're still smiling with the light of Christ. And it's just so inspiring in so many different ways. Is there, if people will leave a lot of links in the description of how you can, Andre's Instagram, so you can kind of keep track. He regularly updates his Instagram account. Is there another way though, if people want to help? Is there a way that people can help you with your serving others and giving food and other necessities to the people of Ukraine?
Yeah, there is actually a few ways to help. Some people decide to send something. Like sometimes there's like this man who sends huge boxes of stuff, like clothes that used obviously, but for people who've been driven from their homes, who had nothing left, that's such a blessing.
Yeah.
Some people send like some dried food, that's a blessing as well. And some people donate money. That's a huge blessing. And in the beginning of war, that was absolutely incredible for me to see how many people are willing to support someone they don't know, someone they never seen, they never heard of, they would never see and never hear about again. And it was really, really humbling experience for me to see so many people coming together and uniting the effort into feeding those who are in need. And I don't know how I was able to do that because just not couple of days, a few weeks ago, yeah, 10 days ago, we had this food delivery and we had about like 50 deliveries to make, and I was exhausted. I didn't have any strength. But back then, we did hundreds and hundreds of deliveries to people who were in need, and I was all right with that. So the Lord is aware of our strength, and He aware of our physical powers, and He just, prepares the way for us to be an effective instruments in His hands. So there is plenty of ways to help and support, and I'm so not so I'm ever grateful to every single person who was involved. You know, anyways,
Yeah.
prayers, donations, or like some clothes or food.
Okay, so we will leave a link in the description about if any of those are resonating with any of our viewers, that they can help you in your work, because you literally take these donations and drive them to each individual's houses, or if they come to you or whatever, you're kind of like a disseminating point for all of this food and whatever else needs to be. Is that correct? That's what you do, kind of, that's what your daily life entails.
That's what I do. Yes, we deliver food. Uh, we like here at the branch with the agreement from the stake president. I use it for this little hub where I can store clothes and some dried food, some canned food, because it's not really what I should be doing at the branch, but there's no other place. And the stake president agreed with that. So sometimes people are coming here to grab some stuff, and these are the people whose house has been destroyed and who have nothing left. So, and I'm so grateful that in a very small way, very little way, we are able to help with these things.
Yeah. Every time we go to the temple, every time we experience those covenants, we promise to sacrifice and consecrate for those who are in need, on both sides of the veil. So I feel like it's just super important for everyone to hear your story. And it's not only just your story, it's all of the Ukrainians' experiences that they're having right now, as horrible as they may be, that there is light, that there are miracles, that they people care about what's going on over there. So thank you so much for joining me, my friend. I have been looking forward to this for a little while, and I just thought this is going to be amazing, where the Lord is literally giving experiences to everyone, everywhere. And as we testify of these thinning of the veil experiences, we see God's hand in our lives more and more and more. And I believe as we get closer to the second coming, and as the chaos continues until Christ comes again, that it's going to take all of us just loving each other and serving one another and praying and doing whatever we can, honestly, to help you and your fellow members over there in Ukraine. And we wish you nothing but the best and pray for you always, and for your safety for sure. So, is there anything else that you want to add before we leave this podcast, this episode?
Well, first of all, just a huge thank you and shout out to you, Tia, for following promptings that you got from the Lord and sharing this. Because in a world where chaos is prevailing and all these terrible things is happening, you are shedding one ray of light into this world, and I know that's really difficult work to find these people, to connect with them, to record, to put it together, to post it. But at the end of the day, this is the most rewarding work because you're doing this for the Lord and you're doing this on His errand. And I know that He's so proud of this work because this work blesses so many lives of people, including mine, including mine. And there's nothing greater than to understand that we are instruments in his hand and that he could trust us enough to inspire us to do things that we do, like you do, this podcast. I'm sure it's inspired, and I know that the Lord blesses you with all the means that you need to do this podcast. And I'm so proud that and honored to meet you and to spend this time with you. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. And honestly, how this happened was one of the listeners of the podcast reached out to me and sent me a little video. He's like, of you telling your mom's thinning of the veil experience. And so I immediately just direct messaged you on Instagram. And here we sit, what, a week later, a week and a half later, something like that. So that's what I love, that the Lord is using technology for us to connect globally and for us to be able to have these experiences together. So go follow him on Instagram. He keeps you up to date on all of the things that he's doing. And he did the sweetest thing for International Women's Day where he took flowers and blankets and looked like a little bit of food to women who obviously are war torn, who are don't have a lot to hope for. So it's just a remarkable thing to watch. So we'll leave all of those links in the description. And you and I need to stay in touch because I am 100% sure you're going to be having more thinning of the veil experiences. So maybe we'll have you on as a guest in a future time to kind of see how things are going. And we pray for you and all of the sweet members over there in Ukraine. So we love you and thank you for joining me today, my friends. And next week's podcast is going to be about the second comforter. And so that's going to be super interesting and very enlightening. It has been for me studying it. So I thank you for joining me, and we will see you next Tuesday, my friends. We'll see ya. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Andre.